You are not as in control as you believe. Every slight, every provocation, every whisper of betrayal is a weapon against your calm. Today, you will learn to master the triggers that undo men of lesser discipline and turn chaos into your advantage. In the shadows of every human encounter lies an unspoken war of impulses. Anger, envy, fear. These are the chains that bind the unwise. Yet, to perceive them, to recognize the stirrings of your own mind, is to glimpse the path to absolute control. In this study, we shall strip away comforting illusions and confront the raw mechanics of emotional power. You will see yourself as you are, and learn to command yourself as you must. You think you are in control. You believe your reason governs your impulses. Yet, every man has a shadow, an unseen fracture in his armor, a hidden weakness that, if struck, can crumble even the strongest resolve. Ask yourself, do you know yours? History is littered with the ruins of men undone, not by armies or treachery alone, but by their inability to recognize the soft spot in their own nature. Consider Caesar, whose ambition blinded him to the envy simmering in Brutus. Did Brutus conjure his dagger from nowhere? No. He simply saw the fracture in Caesar's hubris, the one place where fear and betrayal could take root. And take root they did. Your weaknesses are no mere accidents. They are the levers others pull when you are unprepared. Yet, the wise man does not hide from his own flaws. He examines them as a general surveys the battlefield, noting every crag, every marsh, every potential trap. Do you dare to look inward and see the truths most men refuse to face? Which gestures of insult ignite your temper? Which words pierce your pride? Which memories churn the waters of your patience? These are not trivialities. They are the levers of power, waiting for mastery. Imagine a courtier in Florence, centuries ago, walking through gilded halls where whispers were sharper than swords. One false laugh, one subtle gesture, one mention of past failure could dismantle his reputation entirely. Why? Because he did not know the triggers in himself. The clever prince, however, recognizes that envy of his advisors can be stirred to his advantage. He studies the human heart as a scientist studies nature, cataloging reactions, anticipating moves. What seems like weakness to the untrained eye is, in truth, a potential weapon, if only one can harness it. You see, the first step in control is acknowledgement. Pretending you are immune to insult, to fear, to desire is a fatal error. Men and women are not machines. They are intricate ecosystems of instinct, habit, and emotion. And within every ecosystem lies a fault line. Do you feel that pulse when someone challenges you? That surge of anger that blinds judgment? That flutter of insecurity when your competence is questioned? That is the fault line. Once you identify it, the next step is observation. Not in haste, not in self-loathing, but with strategic patience. Recall the diplomat who never raises his voice, yet bends his opponents to his will. He knows what makes them tick, and more importantly, he knows what makes himself vulnerable. When provoked, he does not lash out. He watches, he waits, and he strikes only when the advantage is unmistakable. Can you watch your own reactions with such ruthless clarity? Can you catalog the sparks before they ignite the flame? History offers more than caution, it offers strategy. Take Caesar Borgia, the son of a pope, and the master of both fear and loyalty. He understood his allies and enemies alike, but he also understood himself. His temper, his pride, his ambitions, all were mapped meticulously. He knew where his fury could be exploited and where restraint could yield obedience. The same principles apply to you. Every slight, every insult, every trigger in your mind is a tool. You may use it to reinforce weakness or to fortify strength. The choice is strategic, not moral. Let us speak plainly. Weakness is not shameful. Ignorance of it is. Do you ignore the patterns of your emotional responses, convincing yourself that discipline is innate? then you are blind. Every reaction you fail to chart is an advantage ceded to others. Your triggers, anger, jealousy, fear, insecurity, are not accidents of character. They are signals. They are the precise coordinates of the battlefield within yourself. Will you map them, or will you wander blindly, waiting for chaos to strike? Look now at your reflection. What stirs unease, resentment, or desire? Trace it. Name it, watch it. The moment you admit where you are vulnerable, you seize the first piece of power over yourself and over those who would exploit you. From this vantage, you will begin to manipulate not only your impulses, but the very currents of influence around you. You will learn to turn attack into defense, provocation into advantage, and chaos into structure. But identification is only the beginning. Knowing your weaknesses is the doorway. Walking through it requires the discipline of a general, the patience of a scholar, and the cold calculation of a strategist. And beyond this doorway lies a deeper truth: the enemy is rarely outside. More often, it resides in the heart, waiting for hesitation, for indulgence, for the lapse of control. Will you confront it? Or will it conquer you first? Prepare yourself. The next step will take us further into the labyrinth of mastery, where your triggers become instruments, and your impulses, servants of strategy. Step forward carefully, for what comes next is not comfort, it is power. You feel the surge before you act. A word spoken, a slight perceived, a challenge presented, and your body reacts before your mind can intervene. Do you believe this is mere happenstance? No. This is the mind's weakness, reflex over reason, instinct over strategy. You are not a spectator in the theater of your impulses. You are the actor and the stage, and if uncontrolled, the script is written by chaos. Consider the rulers of old. Those who fell were not defeated solely by armies, they were undone by their reactions. Louis Xavier, confronted with mockery and unrest, reacted with indecision, panic, and vacillation. His court sensed his fear, and soon the kingdom crumbled. Contrast him with a diplomat or general who harnessed every flicker of emotion, who transformed indignation into advantage, hesitation into deliberation. One is remembered as a caution, the other as a strategist who bends events to his will. Which will you choose to become? To act without thought is to surrender. To act with strategy is to dominate. Every human instinct, anger, desire, fear, is a tool waiting to be wielded. Yet most men allow these tools to wield them. A general does not charge blindly into battle. He calculates, anticipates, and manipulates. Why then do you permit your emotions to march unbidden across the terrain of your mind? Ask yourself, when provoked, do you react with impulse or with purpose? Let me illustrate. In the courts of Venice, intrigue was the lifeblood of survival. One whisper, one insult could provoke a man to rash action, and in doing so, reveal his strategy, or lack thereof. But the shrewd diplomat waits. He watches the initial spark of emotion in his adversary, noting the rise and fall, the tremor of pride, the flash of envy. He acts not in the heat of passion, but in the cold aftermath, when every reaction has been calculated and every advantage can be exploited. He understands that the first reaction is rarely the strongest weapon. It is the first mistake. Do you see now how this applies to yourself? Every time you lash out or withdraw reflexively, you surrender initiative. You hand the battlefield of your mind to forces you do not control. To transform instinct into strategy is not to suppress feeling. It is to master it, to bend it into service. Anger, when harnessed, becomes a precise tool. Desire, when controlled, becomes a lever of influence. Fear, when studied, becomes a map of opportunity. Even in war, the principle holds. Alexander the Great did not charge blindly into the unknown. He observed the enemy, gauged morale, predicted panic, and exploited hesitation. Each decision was informed not by impulse, but by anticipation of reaction. Now consider the human mind as your battlefield. Your adversaries are not always outside, often they are within. Your first impulse, examined, is the enemy that betrays you. Will you allow it to dictate your course, or will you wield it with deliberate precision? Psychology provides the keys. Studies in human behavior reveal the predictability of reaction. Surprise provokes fear. Humiliation sparks anger. Loss ignites desperation. Yet these responses are not immutable. They are patterns. And patterns, once recognized, can be anticipated and directed. You must learn to treat your own impulses with the same cold analysis you would apply to a rival. Observe them, measure them, and choose the moment when action will yield maximum advantage. Imagine a chess master, confronted with a reckless opponent who lunges without thought. The master does not respond in kind. He does not mirror the impulsive strike. He waits. He studies. Each reaction of the opponent becomes a revelation of strategy, each misstep a building block for victory. So too must you treat your own instincts. The first stirrings of anger, of fear, of desire. Do not crush them. Do not ignore them. Watch them. Learn from them. Use them. Ask yourself, how often have you acted prematurely, allowing emotion to dictate outcome? How often have you surrendered control, believing that reaction is inevitable? The wise know that true power is in the pause, the observation, the deliberate action. It is not the strongest arm that prevails, but the mind that waits, calculating, anticipating, bending circumstance to will. And now the challenge becomes clear. You have identified your weaknesses. You have observed their existence in others. But how do you turn these internal currents into instruments of influence rather than obstacles? How do you act, not react, in a world designed to provoke you at every turn? The answer lies just beyond the next threshold, the step where restraint transforms into weaponized precision. Prepare yourself. To act strategically is to embrace discomfort, to sit with tension, to let instinct simmer while reason sharpens its blade. The next segment will reveal how to convert every reaction into a tool, every impulse into leverage, and every provocation into mastery. Step forward, or remain a slave to the currents of your own mind. Have you ever observed a man in turmoil and wondered why he falters while another stands unshaken? The difference is not courage, nor intellect. It is observation. The ability to watch without interference, to perceive without emotion, is the mark of those who wield power with subtlety. Yet most are blinded by the noise of the world, reacting to every insult, every gesture, every whisper as if the universe were conspiring against them. Do you belong to that herd, or can you see as the strategist sees? History offers its lessons in patience. Consider Cardinal Richelieu, architect of France's clandestine power. He understood that wars are not always fought with swords, many are won with eyes and ears. He observed courtiers, gauged moods, recorded alliances, and understood loyalties and resentments as though they were chess pieces on a board. He did not act at the first provocation, he acted when observation revealed the precise moment to strike. How often do you pause, catalogue, and measure the emotional currents around you before you respond? Or do you rush to action, leaving advantage to others? Observation is not passive. It is active calculation. To see is to know, and to know is to command. The subtle smile of a rival, the fleeting glance of envy in a colleague, the trembling hesitation in a subordinate, these are not inconsequential. They are data. They are threads that, when woven together, reveal the architecture of human intent. Can you read these signs in yourself as well? Do you recognize the impulses that betray your thoughts, the desires that distort your judgment, the fears that cloud your vision? If not, you are blind to the very forces you must master. Even in warfare, observation dictates success. Alexander the Great did not charge blindly, he surveyed, measured, and anticipated. He noted the enemy's stance, their formation, the slightest tremor of morale. A careless general would act, consumed by impulse. Alexander waited. He understood that victory lies not in reaction, but in preparation, in reading the signals before they become threats. And so it is with human interaction. Observation transforms chaos into insight, insight into strategy. Let us examine another example, closer to home in time, yet timeless in lesson: courtroom strategist. A lawyer does not attack immediately upon hearing a provocation. She studies the opponent, noting speech patterns, gestures, and emotional peaks. She allows provocation to surface, then channels it into advantage, exploiting the predictable human reaction. The same principle governs life. Each provocation aimed at you is not a call to battle, but an opportunity for study. The question is, will you act, or will you observe? Will you gather intelligence, or will you surrender control to your first reaction? Observation also demands reflection on yourself. To understand others is not enough. To anticipate is futile without awareness of your own tendencies. Which stimuli inflame you? Which words penetrate your pride? Which patterns ignite fear or desire? You must catalog these triggers with the same precision you would use to map an opponent's weaknesses. Only then can observation serve mastery rather than mere endurance. Can you look upon yourself with the same cold scrutiny you apply to others, or are you too afraid to see what lies beneath the surface? The greatest mistake of men and women alike is confusion between action and control. Observation is not inaction, it is preparation. It is the calm before the decisive maneuver. Do you lash out at every slight, or do you let knowledge guide your response? Do you react to provocation, or do you wait until understanding permits exploitation? The latter is power, the former, weakness. Consider the Venetian spy networks, whose success relied not on force but on meticulous attention. Couriers, informants, subtle signals, all were observed, recorded, analyzed. One misread glance could mean disaster. One correct interpretation could yield dominion over allies and adversaries alike. Observation is your network, your intelligence, your unseen army. Do you deploy it, or do you stumble blindly through human chaos? Now ask yourself, how often have you acted without seeing, without understanding the currents that swirl around you? How often have you allowed the noise of emotion to drown out the whispers of opportunity? Observation, silent and precise, is the instrument that transforms turmoil into advantage. And once you command this skill, you will find that others' reactions, their provocations, their manipulations, are no longer threats. They are tools. But observation alone is not sufficient. To wield true power, you must learn to act with the knowledge gained, to convert perception into precision, to move with intent rather than impulse. And this is where the next lesson begins: the alchemy of internal discipline into external influence. Prepare yourself. What you will see in the following segment will show how restraint becomes a weapon, how silence can be louder than words, and how the observant mind becomes the hand that directs the world. Step carefully. The next threshold demands more than patience. It demands mastery. Do you desire control over others, yet find yourself undone by your own impulses? Consider this: the man who cannot govern himself cannot command even a single ally. Every empire, every alliance, every influence begins within the mind. If chaos rules there, it will rule everywhere else. Ask yourself, are you master of your impulses, or are you a servant to the whims of circumstance? History is unforgiving to those who neglect internal discipline. Take Emperor Nero, whose unchecked rage and indulgence destroyed not only his legacy but the very fabric of Rome. Each outburst alienated allies, incited fear, and invited betrayal. In contrast, consider Queen Elizabeth I, whose composure was her weapon. She endured insults, threats, and provocations with calculated calm, turning each attempt at destabilization into a demonstration of her power. Which path will you choose? Self-destruction or strategic dominion? Internal discipline is not merely restraint, it is an active force. It is the capacity to observe the stirrings within, to measure them, to convert instinct into calculation. Do you feel anger rising at a slight, envy at another's success, desire that clouds judgment? These impulses are neither shameful nor accidental. They are signals, revealing your vulnerabilities, yes, but also offering the opportunity to transform them into leverage. Can you bend these currents instead of being swept away by them? Consider the samurai of feudal Japan. Their training was not only in combat but in self-command. A warrior could face death and still maintain focus, for mastery of the internal realm was prerequisite to mastery of the external. One misstep of emotion could cost life or honor. Discipline was not optional, it was survival. And what is power if not survival in the chaotic battlefield of human interaction? The same principles apply today in boardrooms, social arenas, and the invisible wars of influence. Even in politics, restraint is power. The cunning diplomat allows insult to pass without flinching, converts provocation into opportunity, and speaks only when words maximize influence. Every reaction that is suppressed becomes a reservoir of strength. Have you ever watched a man restrained in fury while others around him falter? That man does not seem powerful. He is irresistible. For those who cannot govern themselves, the world appears vast and threatening. For the disciplined, every event becomes material for strategy. Psychology reveals why this works. The human mind is designed to respond to perceived threats, slights, and rewards with instinctive urgency. Yet, the individual who trains the mind to pause, reflect, and calculate turns instinct into instrument. Anger is no longer a liability, it is a signal of opportunity. Desire is no longer distraction, it is a lever to achieve goals. Fear is no longer paralysis, it is a map of vulnerabilities to exploit. The mind that masters itself becomes a weapon sharper than any sword, a force unseen yet omnipotent. Even on the battlefield of negotiation, restraint dictates outcome. Consider Otto von Bismarck, whose cold, deliberate patience forged alliances and outmaneuvered rivals. He allowed tempers to flare, rival ambitions to surface, and yet never reacted impulsively. Each opponent revealed his hand through their own uncontrolled impulses. Bismarck observed, waited, and struck with precision. Could you, too, wield your impulses, waiting for the exact moment when the world bends to your calculation? Internal discipline mirrors external authority because the self is the ultimate domain. The moment you lose control over anger, desire, or fear, you surrender the initiative. The moment you allow emotion to govern action, you invite exploitation. Power resides not in action alone, but in the command of the mind that dictates action. Ask yourself, do you act because you must, or because you have mastered when and how to act? Now envision the path forward. Each provocation that once disarmed you, each fear that once restrained you, each desire that once corrupted judgment, they are no longer threats, they are instruments. The disciplined mind transforms chaos into structure, impulsive fury into measured influence, internal turbulence into silent strength. This is the alchemy of mastery. From restraint comes power, from patience comes dominion, from internal command emerges control over the world around you. But mastery is not complete without execution. Recognition of your impulses is only the beginning. Their transformation into tools of influence is the next frontier. Can you move from self-command to external leverage, turning observation into action, patience into strategy, and restraint into irresistible authority? The next segment will reveal how to convert the internal discipline you have cultivated into tangible dominance in every arena of life. Prepare yourself. Beyond this point, the line between thought and action blurs. Silence becomes louder than words. Calm becomes a weapon sharper than the sword. And the mind you have disciplined will step forward to manipulate not only circumstance, but the very currents of human behavior around you. The true test of mastery begins now. You have identified your weaknesses. You have learned to observe your impulses. You have disciplined your mind. Now comes the ultimate test, transforming every provocation, every slight, every threat into advantage. Ask yourself, can you turn the world's attacks into instruments of your power, or will you allow them to remain obstacles, chipping away at your resolve? History teaches that mastery of self is not enough. Consider Octavian, the future Augustus, heir to Caesar's empire. He did not merely control his temper or suppress envy. He used every betrayal, every insult, and every rival's ambition to consolidate power. Brutus and Cassius thought their dagger could end him. Instead, their actions revealed their weaknesses, which he exploited with meticulous precision. Each provocation became a stepping stone, each danger a tool. This is the path you must now tread, to convert reaction into leverage, chaos into opportunity. How often have you been provoked and reacted rashly? How often has someone's taunt, their deception, their manipulation drawn you into a trap of your own making? The weak respond. They expend energy, reveal strategy, and weaken their position. The strong observe, calculate, and transform the moment into advantage. The question is simple. Which category do you wish to inhabit? Consider Machiavelli's own counsel: fortune favors the prepared mind. Those who are ruled by emotion are at the mercy of circumstance. Those who master emotion make circumstance bend to them. Anger is no longer a storm to endure. It is a lever to destabilize rivals. Fear is no longer a shackle. It is a compass to navigate alliances and anticipate betrayal. Desire is no longer a distraction. It is a tool to manipulate influence and gain compliance. Each internal current becomes an external instrument. Can you wield them with such precision? Let us examine a more contemporary example: Winston Churchill. During the darkest hours of Britain, surrounded by panic, betrayal, and despair, he did not allow fear to dictate action. Every provocation, every insult from allies and opponents alike, was observed and converted into fuel for strategy. He did not lash out, nor did he cower. He leveraged perception, manipulated morale, and guided both friend and foe toward outcomes that served his purpose. His discipline of self became dominance over circumstance. Could you do the same with your life, your interactions, your battles unseen? Psychology confirms the efficacy of this approach. Humans are predictable when provoked. Emotions create openings. Anger clouds judgment, fear generates hesitation, pride blinds vision. But if you control your response, you gain the vantage point of the strategist. You can predict, manipulate, and act with precision. The provocation that would destroy others becomes, in your hands, a weapon calibrated for maximum effect. Ask yourself, are you a slave to instinct, or are you the master of leverage? Even in daily interactions, this principle applies. Consider a negotiation, a workplace confrontation, a social slight. The instinct of most is immediate reaction, defense, argument, emotional expenditure. But the disciplined mind watches, notes, and calculates. Each word spoken by others, each micro-expression, each attempt at manipulation is logged and transformed into information. And information is power. What once provoked fury or fear now reveals tactics, intentions, and openings. Every attack becomes a step toward control rather than a wound to your ego. The final lesson emerges clearly: to truly master your impulses is insufficient without application. Recognition without action is vanity. Discipline without leverage is weakness. The man who has mastered himself, but does not use it to influence the world, is like a general who drills his army endlessly, but refuses to engage the battlefield. Power is not abstract, it is exercised, weaponized, deployed. And the most potent power comes from turning the forces that threaten you into tools that serve you. Prepare yourself for the culmination of this study. Beyond mastery of the self and observation of the currents around you lies the art of execution, the transformation of every provocation into leverage, every insult into insight, every threat into dominion. You have acquired the instruments of power. The question now is, will you play them as the unthinking, or as the strategist whose hand moves unseen, whose control shapes outcomes before they are even perceived? Step forward and learn the final alchemy, the conversion of internal mastery into external command, where every impulse obeys your will, and every provocation becomes an opportunity to dominate. The apex of emotional discipline is at hand, and only those who act with precision will emerge victorious. Power is often unseen. Influence is rarely loud. Those who bend others without their knowledge are not tyrants, they are strategists. Ask yourself, how often have your desires been manipulated by another while you remained blind? The mind that controls itself first controls the world. Every provocation, every slight, every whisper of dissent can be converted into leverage. Observe. Wait. Strike only when advantage is certain. This is the calculus of mastery. Do you wish to remain at the mercy of impulses and fools? Or do you dare to transform every human reaction into your tool, every encounter into opportunity? Remember, true control is invisible. The hand that guides need not be seen. The power you wield is strongest when it masquerades as happenstance. If you have understood even a fraction of this, act. Comment your thoughts. Show the world your insight. Subscribe to sharpen your mind with further Machiavellian strategies. Share this knowledge. Let the unseen currents of influence expand through those who dare to learn. The world waits for the disciplined. Will you answer?